Dwight D. Eisenhower is a complex historical figure whose leadership style provide a rich field of study. Eisenhower was never in actual combat, never was shot at or shot at anyone. His role as Supreme Allied Commander of military operations in Europe during World War II required coordinating and leading the Allied coalition generals to victory. What in Eisenhower's leadership abilities allowed him to obtain credibility with the larger-than-life personalities of his day, including General Patton, Franklin Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, and Charles de Gaulle. Let's look at some interesting facts to position Eisenhower the man in the context with Eisenhower the general and later as president. Eisenhower had no political affiliations until he became Republican presidential nominee. Eisenhower never held political office except for becoming 34th U.S. president. Allegedly, Eisenhower had to quit playing poker due to his winning streak among his fellow Army officers. Eisenhower was the first future president to obtain his private pilot's license and played golf and bridge right until his death in 1969. Eisenhower smoked 4 packs of cigarettes a day and drank 5 times as many cups of coffee. He finally quit smoking cold turkey when he was in his early 60s. When asked how he did it, he reportedly replied, "I ordered myself to quit." Motivation is getting someone to do something you want them to do because they want to do it. Born and raised in rural Kansas, the 4th of 6 brothers, there were few prospects. Eisenhower gains entrance into the Army's officer corps at West Point and exhibited high levels of Goldberg's personality factors such as extroversion, openness, and conscientiousness. Through numerous pre-World War I assignments, Eisenhower built his reputation as an officer who can motivate his subordinates through personal charisma. Eisenhower was given a new command of organizing and leading Camp Colt, the Army's first armored tank training facility. Eisenhower created Camp Colt from the ground up, obtaining all the tents, food, training materials, and tanks. The Camp Colt experience is instrumental in applying Eisenhower's leadership traits and developing his transformational leadership style. Transformational leadership is a process whereby a leader engages with others to create a connection that raises the level of motivation in both leader and follower. This type of leader is attentive to the needs and motives of the followers and tries to help followers reach their fullest potential. The transformational leadership model contains 4 main factors: idealized influence, inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, and individualized consideration. Eisenhower demonstrates the main components of transformational leadership. Here are some officer testimonials. If there is such a thing as magnetic personality, he had it. Eisenhower had the priceless ability to make anyone he met feel that he has a genuine interest in him and his ideas. He was a born soldier, but most human and considerate. Despite his youth, he possessed a high understanding of organization. Eisenhower displayed unusual zeal, foresight, and the marked administrative ability in the organization, training and preparation for overseas service of the Tank Corps. Eisenhower's transformational leadership style continues to develop, not against enemy combatants, but against the dreaded Spanish flu that has been introduced into Camp Colt by returning servicemen from Europe. Eisenhower's leadership transforms officer and soldier alike into warriors against the virus. The war ended before Eisenhower made it to the trenches of France. He decides to stay in the Army and is posted on several prestigious international assignments which continue to build his stature as a rising officer in the U.S. Army. As America enters World War II, Eisenhower is recalled to Washington. Through his conscientious organizational skills and idealized influence, he comes under the notice of Secretary of War Henry Stimson. As the Allies are gaining ground in the Mediterranean theater against the Germans, plans are underway to make the unprecedented invasion of the French coast at Normandy. Eisenhower's recent military successes and personal charisma propel him to the role of Allied Supreme Commander of the European theater. Eisenhower's leadership style unified a group of very independent-minded generals for the largest invasion in history. As president, Eisenhower's leadership style changes from transformational to authentic. Authentic leadership theory is based on the foundation of four principles: self-awareness, internalized moral perspective, balanced processing, and relational transparency. Communist China is threatening the takeover of small islands held by the longtime U.S. ally, Nationalist China, Taiwan. Eisenhower rejects close advisors' pressures to use nuclear weapons against China in the conflict. Through political maneuvering and personal bluff, he diffuses the situation. In conclusion, we are fortunate to have vivid examples of Eisenhower's leadership styles in the audio from Eisenhower's D-Day address, which provides a stirring example of his transformational leadership style. Authentic leadership is demonstrated in Eisenhower's prophetic warnings of the dangers of influence from the military-industrial complex from his presidential farewell address.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. In company with our brave allies and brothers in arms on other fronts, you will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over the oppressed peoples of Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world. Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. He will fight savagely. But this is the year 1944. Much has happened since the Nazi triumphs of 1940-41. The United Nations have inflicted upon the Germans great defeats in open battle, man to man. Our air offensive has seriously reduced their strength in the air and their capacity to wage war on the ground. Our home fronts have given us an overwhelming superiority in weapons and munitions of war, and placed at our disposal great reserves of trained fighting men. The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and let us all beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking.